Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our first episode of our Aljetian's Guide to Dungeon Mastering. I am your host for this, and this is Lesson 1. So this will be covering basically just class creation, lots of the key parts of character creation, really, and a couple other small small facts. So just a quick note that I want you guys to all be caught up on is the thing I'm going to be going through here is kind of a mix between D&D and a couple other tabletop games. So it won't be exactly the same and it won't line up exactly, but it will. The general idea behind each of these is the same. So with that at hand, let's hop right into this. So first off is just some important tidbits in creating classes. The first, and I put them in order of which I believe that they are of importance. The first off I put is just balancing stats. You don't want to make any specific class, I guess you could say, more favorable than all the others. You want them all to be relatively the same, I guess you could say, ability, relatively the same potential. Secondly, we have starting equipment. Big thing about starting equipment is you just don't want them to be overpowered. You don't want them to be underpowered. You want them to be, able to do what they need to do for their class type. For example, if they're if it's some sort of tanking class, like a brute or something, you would give them some sort of medium or heavy armor, something stronger than a light armor, really. And if they're a long range character, you wouldn't give them a full steel cuirass. So you would give them, say, a light armor, like some sort of patched clothing or something. So thirdly, we have skills, perks, and proficiencies. You just need to make sure you include those in there. Because if you don't, well, your players are going to be screwed over. And last of all is just clever naming. This one should be self-explanatory, but I've seen this many times where people make, some sort of class and they give it a name that really just doesn't match. You want to make sure that your class matches, the name of the class. For example, if I make a class named Brute, I'm not going to, have him be a sniper. I'm going to have him be some sort of up-close personal fighter. And the same goes the other way. If I have some sort of up-close personal fighter, I'm not going to call him a brute, or not. I am going to call him a brute. I'm not going to call him a marksman. So without ado, let's move on. So I have a couple of examples here of just the ones that I've made for my adventure that I'm working on here that I was talking about at the beginning of this video. Big idea here is, the brute, strength +5, dex +3, con +6, strength, dexterity, and constitution. Fairly simple. Starts off with 4, just basically up-close melee weapons. 1 patched, but you guys wouldn't understand that because it's also part of my campaign. Medium or light armor. A couple mutations, which is from a thing called Gamma World, which I'm implementing in my adventure. And perks. So down here for perks, I have picked 2, but I also like to reward my players for if they just really power load some stat. So I gave him 3 if the strength is greater than 20. And they're able to pick from any of those following perks. Next up here we have the captain. He has all scores get a +2 modifier. Not +2 modifier, but a +2 to their ability scores. Same with all these up here. It's not the modifier, it's to the ability score. He can have 2 weapons of any type, or he can have 1 normal weapon and basically one magic, but it's a different magic system, so it's a little different. Down here, 1 medium or patched medium armor. Basically, that's the same thing, just that's part of my adventure. That wouldn't make any sense. General idea is 1 medium armor. And then finally down there, I have any 4 perks, which is kind of blocked off by this bar here, which I can't tell if you can see or not, but it's there. Next off, we have the marksman. He has got a dexterity of +8, wisdom +3, and then you can let them decide if they want strength, dexterity, or constitution +3. I've done that on quite a few of my character classes that I've made. They have a choice of which one they want to plug it into. If there's not one that's definitely, definitely that character. So some of those characters have very variables, like some marksmen will be healthier, some marksmen will be faster. And the reason I put dex down here and also up here is because if they really want to, they can just be this super quick, super accurate marksman by giving themselves basically a +11 to dex instead of, a +3 on 2 different stats. Down here, just a 1 medium to long ranged weapon. Again, medium to long, it's really just base idea is ranged weapon. 1 light armor, one pair of binoculars or one spyglass, and then they can pick 3 of these. Big thing to note here, they all have something that they make up for. For example, right here we have this guy that has 4 strength weapons and a medium armor. And the way we make up for that is the captain down here can have any 4 perks. This guy can have 3. And he also has that binocular and spyglass in there. And that kind of helps make up for and compensate for this leverage there. The next thing I want to touch on is standardizing the currency. What I've noticed with playing D&D for a while is that lots of the time this currency system just doesn't make sense. So I've kind of put up my own system here that helps me standardize it a bit and have some relatively positive outlines as to how it should run. And really this is just however your campaign is running. If you have a very wealth-centered campaign, that GP of 50 could be a GP of 100 or a GP of 1,000, etc., etc. But I just wanted to put this into common terms for people to understand. Like, this is all in US dollars, by the way, not British pounds or anything. General rule of thumb is that, because the system is 10 of each in the other, I started with PP of 500. Gold is divided by 10, which is 50 divided by 10, which is 5 divided by 10, which is 0.5. And that seems to work out pretty well with my group that I have. And again, it really depends on what group and what campaign you're type of playing. I like to consider this kind of a good campaign for, good currency system for kind of campaigns that run relatively mild in currency, but they can get larger numbers. For example, a good tip at some sort of bard show would be like 1 or 2 GP, while an average tip would be like, 3 or 4 SP. So moving on from here is starting gold for characters. So what I went ahead and did here is just a nice little table to show the starting gold for a player, so a couple things to just note real quick. Basically, the way I have this running is, again, this top bar might not make as much sense if you're running a, just a normal D&D campaign, but it's the same idea. I have race and class. So the general idea is, different races will have different abilities in different areas of the game. And I just went ahead and repositioned this real quick for you guys. But basically, yeah, as I was saying, just race by class here, in order to get a good feel of how this works. And I'll show you how I did this real quick. These ones with those little tally marks here next to them, I guess they're not tally marks, but the ones with the little symbols next to them. Those basically are on a scale of 2d4 to 5d4. And the general idea is all the way across you should have 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, and 1, 5. And then these ones that don't have it have 1d4 to 4d4, and it's again 1, 2, 3, 4. And the normals at D&D system does times 10, but I found that a little bit overpowered for at least my currency system that I have. So I decided and went and did 5, which again can be a little odd to have a 5 instead of a 10, but it appears to work for me and my guy, so I go ahead and do that. But you can see here that obviously a mutated animal or a mutated human or some kind of mechanized android would have a very clear advantage than just a normal everyday human if they were to work in some sort of muscle-bound type of environment. Same with a criminal. Some normal human won't do very well trying to rob a bunch of super burly guys over here. But they would do good as a medicine man or a combat mage because they're one of the only ones that can use that magic that I have in the system. And they have those, normal everyday human hands that, would be easier to work with small things with, while the android would, not be as well, but it would still be effective because they have, some sort of system inside of them that allows them to do that. So there's that there, and that's really all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys can join us again for our next episode of Aljetian's Guide to Dungeon Mastering. I hope you enjoyed this real